time to revisit a little bit order of operations. As I've mentioned in class, and I'll do again here, when I talk about order of operations, I am talking about this idea. And now in the past, some of you may have had PEMDAS, but no PERMDAS. And so I'll just quickly give you a reminder of what each of the letters stands for. So we have P stands for parentheses. Always do those first. Whatever's inside of parentheses happens first. And sometimes there's like hidden parentheses that will show, so like invisible parentheses, and we'll talk about those too. E stands for exponents. And then from here forward, what we're looking at is items that are inverse operations or opposite operations. All right, so we have exponents, and the opposite of exponents is roots. So we already talked about square versus square root. And then you have opposite operations of multiplication and division. So we'll do those next. And then we have addition, subtraction, and we do those last. And when we do that, it's a systematic way that we work ourselves through. As I've said in class, and I'll say again, take your time. So take your time. The biggest mistakes happen when you rush through what's going on. So here's our quick example problem. We have 11 minus 4 plus negative 1 times 5. Depending on how you like to work through these things, in this case, we have 3 operations going on. We have subtraction, we have adding, and we have multiplying. And some of you might look at this negative here and say to yourself, isn't that subtracting? When it's in parentheses with a single individual number, that's more of a directional information. So it's a negative one versus a positive one. So I have 3 operations: subtraction, addition, multiplication. And when we think of PEMDAS, we are thinking of which are there parentheses. While there's a parenthesis here, what's inside can't be simplified. It's just a negative 1. So we're done with parentheses. There are no exponents. There are no square roots, but there is multiplying. So we start with multiplying and say, all right, what's being multiplied? Being multiplied are those 2 items, 5 times negative 1. 5 times negative 1, negative 5. So then I bring everything else down. So 11 minus 4 plus negative 5. And then I look at what's remaining for operations and say there's no more multiplying, there's no dividing. I now have adding and subtracting, which I can do in any order that I want. I'm going to add and subtract, I should say. 11 minus 4. 7, good, if you were thinking that in your head, plus a negative 5. And then I finally have, shrink that up and move it up a bit, 7 plus negative 5 is positive 2. If you had started this problem and simply wrote negative 2, and you did not show any of this work, you will not receive full credit. If this were a 3-point problem, you would get maybe 1 point or 0. Excuse me, not negative 2. What am I doing there? Remember, you got to help me out with those, folks. Negatives and positives. If you have just written 2, you would not get credit for it. You need to show the work on how you get there. As I've said in class, and I'll say again, I cannot read your mind, nor should I ever want to read your mind. So when you're doing the work, you must show all the steps involved. If you say to yourself, this is just way too simple, I can do it in my head, you still must show me what you're doing. So now for this problem, what I want you to do is not write down actually any answers, but write down what order the different operations are going to happen specifically related to what's going on here. So what I mean by that is I'd look at this problem and say, okay, thinking of, what's the acronym again? PEMDAS. Are there any parentheses? And you look and say, oh yes, there's parentheses here and there's parentheses there. So what I would actually write down is parentheses and then parentheses again. because you need to do what's in parentheses twice. Parentheses here and parentheses there. So then, after I do parentheses, I look and say, are there exponents? No. Are there roots? No. Is there multiplying? Yes, there is. There's multiplying here, 12 times whatever that's going to be, and 8 times whatever this is going to be. So that means then I need to multiply in 2 different places. So I'm going to multiply, and then I'm going to multiply. All right, in 2 different places, here and there. And then I'll have one number here, I'll have one number there, and my last operation is subtraction. All right. Then we're going to start getting in the habit of doing this, writing down what I'm going to do, and then actually doing it. So we're going to make a plan and then execute the plan. So by making the plan, for the first set of parentheses, I'm going to go 12 times, I'll do my first set of parentheses. What is 5 plus 12? 17. Then I'm going to have minus 96 divided by 3, parentheses, times 8. Then I'll do the other set of parentheses. 12 times 17 minus, and then I do what's inside parentheses. 96 divided by 3 is 32 times 8. Then I'm going to do my first set of multiplication, which will be here. Second set of multiplication, which will be here. Do that on this and then finally subtraction. What you're going to do is you're going to finish this, do this multiplication on the next line, this multiplication on the next line, and then subtraction finally. All right. What you're going to write down on your quarter sheet of paper is all of this whole problem, doing it neatly but on a quarter sheet of paper, and that's what you'll turn in when you come to class. Thank you so much. We'll see you tomorrow.